Hello and welcome back to my channel and to our latest renovation project, our stairs and landing area. So as you can see, our stairs were carpeted in a peachy coloured carpet. There was half wall panelling up the staircase and the stairs themselves had white wooden spindles and an oak handrail. Up on the landing, the walls were painted a cornflower blue, which was a colour that we also had downstairs in the hallway when we bought the house. There were various little areas that needed repairs and carpets that needed to be replaced and matched up in areas like my shoe cupboard, along with changing the spindles and the handrail on the stairs to something that fits in more with all of the changes that we've made throughout the rest of the house. One issue we had was an existing wooden Velux roof window, which was old, but we think also hadn't been maintained by previous owners. So when we bought the house, we knew that eventually it was something that was going to need replacing. However, it wasn't an urgent repair that needed to be done right away because the window wasn't leaking. It just looked a bit shabby where the wood was clearly starting to rot with moisture. We had the same issue with the roof window in the guest bathroom, which we renovated earlier this year. We replaced the window with a Velux UPVC roof window, which is white internally and black externally. Annoyingly, Velux don't make this window in this size with black as an internal colour option. So this roof window and the one in the guest bathroom and one in a guest bedroom that we all had replaced don't match the rest of our black aluminium windows that we chose when replacing all of the windows in the house. That said, the white is nice and bright, so it doesn't bother us so much given the lower head height in these spaces. Once the window was installed, it was then ready for our plasterer to come and make good the gaps that you can see around the internal part of the frame. But before that happened, Simon stripped off all of the wall panelling that ran up the stairs on the walls so that these areas could also be plastered at the same time. We had the same wall panelling in the lounge and also in the hallway, so this wasn't the first lot that's had to be stripped off. Our plasterer then came and he did the recess up to the frame of the new roof window and then feathered that into the existing plaster on the ceiling, along with the two walls that are on the stairway where Simon had just stripped off that panelling. Then it was a waiting game for the plaster to fully dry and go off before painting. Up on the landing, Simon started working on any repairs to the existing plaster, so any movement cracks and little areas which just needed a bit of TLC to make them look nicer. He used a mix-up fine filler to fill any areas that needed filling, and once that was dry, he went and sanded those areas by hand with some fine sandpaper for a smooth finish. I followed behind, trying to eradicate as much dust as possible with our Henry vacuum. Finally, the plaster had fully dried, so I could start with a mist coat on the freshly plastered areas. So as I've mentioned before, you need to do a mist coat first before applying your regular paint, otherwise the paint will just flake off. And of course, our chosen paint for this area was Little Green's Joanna in the same intelligent matte finish that we've used throughout the rest of the house. I love this shade so much. It's bright, it's light, and it's airy in well-lit spaces, but without looking too clinical like a pure white. It's the perfect light neutral and it changes in tone throughout the day as the natural light changes. Now, I don't think there is any shame at all in using a paint that you really love in your home in multiple spaces. And Joanna is exactly that paint for us. It just works really well for us and it works really well in this house. And I can't tell you how happy I was to say goodbye to that final splash of cornflower blue after 2.5 years of renovating. I always find that 2 coats of this paint does the trick because the formula is just so good, and it's a paint that I really enjoy working with as the primary painter out of the two of us. And in this case, upstairs, I'm also using it on the doors, which at this point we've chosen not to replace. So here all the paint was dry, and as you can see, the walls, the ceiling, doors, architrave and skirting boards are all the same colour, and this is called colour drenching. It's a really good technique to make smaller spaces appear larger, and if you're using a lighter colour paint, as I have here, it makes them appear brighter. Now, moving on to the stair railings. The spindles and handrail were going to be ripped out, but the newel posts would be staying in place as those were built into the floor. We found some oak cladding kits online and decided to use those to change the look of the newel posts, along with some newel post caps. The installation of the new stair fittings was not something we felt confident enough to do ourselves, so we did hire a carpenter who came recommended to us by some friends. He stripped out all of the old wooden spindles, the handrail and the base rail, so that we were just left with those 4 newel posts. An oak cladding kit was then installed to the bottom newel posts, and at this point we then decided to rip out the wooden step which was at the bottom and replace with a piece of oak. The other 3 newel posts were then clad using the same oak kits, and then the new oak base rail, black iron slim spindles and oak handrail were all installed. Black is an accent colour throughout the entire house, so for us it just made sense to have these skinny black spindles to tie everything in, along with using oak on the handrail and the base rail to tie in with the flooring and the downstairs doors. Once our carpenter was finished installing the fixtures, we decided to do the rest of the finishings ourselves. Any of the wood filler that had been applied to the joins and various pinholes was sanded down with some fine sandpaper. In some areas this needed doing a few times to get a smooth and even finish, and then all of the wood was wiped down in preparation for the lacquer. We bought a spray lacquer from the same company that we bought the handrail and the base rail from, as this is what they used for those fixtures which were delivered already treated. We bought the oak cladding kits for the newel posts and the end caps, and also the oak for the step, all from different retailers, and these all came untreated, so we just wanted to match up the finish of all of the oak pieces. As all of these pieces of wood were already installed, we didn't really want to use the spray indoors. So Simon sprayed the contents of each can into a vessel and then used a foam applicator to apply 4 coats of this semi-matte lacquer by hand to all of the untreated pieces of oak. We allowed the correct amount of drying time between coats and had plenty of ventilation when using this stuff because it really smells. But on the positive side, this lacquer really brought out the natural grain of each unique piece of beautiful oak. Once the stairs were finished, it was time to pull up all of the old carpet and underlay, which was incredibly satisfying because this was the last remaining piece of flooring from when we bought the house. Then I touched up any of the paint, mainly the skirting boards where I hadn't been able to get right to the bottom because the old carpet was still in place. And this was for good reason. We wanted to leave ripping up the carpet until only the day before our carpet fitter was due to come, because all of the sharp carpet grippers along the edges and along the stairs would be exposed, and we have some very little and very precious paws in this house, so we wanted to keep those safe. Our carpet fitter came and was done after only a few hours. We chose to have the same carpet that we have in both of the guest rooms. It's 100% wool loop carpet, and I will leave all of the brand details and the colour details down in the description box below for anyone who may be interested. We had matte black threshold bars installed between each of the rooms, and my shoe cupboard finally was rid of those blue carpet tiles. I would have loved to have been able to have a solid oak staircase, but with 4 dogs that love to charge up and down the stairs, it's just not a practical option for us or a safe option for them, so the carpet was carried on down the stairs as well. After a good clean, we could then pop in some of the finishing touches that we'd been collecting. I used this little corner nook for drying and styling my hair because I've got the mirror on the opposite wall, so I wanted to get a chair to nestle into this space so that I can sit down comfortably when I'm doing my hair. This chair is from Perch and Paro and it fits in perfectly with the overall aesthetic of the house. And then I have been collecting a few things from Homesense, which I'll actually be doing a dedicated video on in the next couple of weeks, including this abstract wall art, which has an oak frame and neutral tones. So again, this just really suited the space and adds a little interest to the colour-drenched walls. This was another piece of textured wall art that I bought from TK Maxx, and it's quite large, so it was a good fit for filling some blank space over on this wall. As this is technically the loft space, the limited head height always makes it a little bit tricky to do anything outstanding, but we're both really happy with how this project turned out. Now that that blue has gone, it's much lighter, brighter and airier up here, and we love the new oak and iron balustrade. That came out way better than we anticipated. Now this space was the final internal space of the house to be renovated, so it's kind of like the cherry on top. And you can catch all of our other projects from this home renovation over on my channel in the home playlist. Now, we do still have a lot more projects still to come as we start to tackle the external parts of our property and the pool house. But for now, thank you as always for watching, and I'll see you next time.